in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
Cougars in the wild and in the not so wild will be the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm BJ Williams. With me is Jo Dewar-Brock to talk about her book Cat Attacks. Susie Beasley will talk with Frank Ray. Kids Corner will feature Shelley Ziegler-Hill. We also have Doug Benton, Clyde Martin, and John Brewer. Coming up, Jo Dewar-Brock.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, BJ Williams.
Jo Dewar-Brock and Dean Miller have written a fascinating book about cougars. It's called Cat Attacks. And with me today is Jo Dewar-Brock to tell us a little bit about the book. And Jo, I'm going to ask you my standard question, which is, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I don't actually know what inspired my co-author, but with me, it was that I was working on an article about mountain lions, and I met a really amazing tracker by the name of Tom Parker up in Montana, where they have lots of cougars. And he told me that he often follows cougars who are hanging out. He finds their tracks and sees that they're hanging out above hiking trails. They're following people, they're watching people. And yet, he says, I never find any indication that they bother these people, and I was just fascinated by that. This huge predator following us around and so seldom doing anything to even let us know they're there. So,
well, and I imagine most of us are fairly oblivious. I mean, we don't have the kind of hearing or the kind of sense of smell that a wild animal does. So I would imagine unless the cat walks onto the path and says, "Hi, guys."
Well, and even more important, we don't have the awareness that we even ought to look around us. I think most of us still think we're living in a world where, from which we have removed the predators, like our parents did. The predators are coming back. A lot of people don't know that. I think we would notice them if we looked more often because they're there. Even, did you know cougars are returning to Oklahoma?
Yes, actually, I had heard that, and I have talked with some people who have actually seen one in the fairly recent past. So
really,
and very uncomfortably close to Oklahoma City, actually. So it's a phenomenon that I think we don't deal with. I know here in Oklahoma, most of the complaints from people who start, and you mentioned this in your book, people start building houses where farms used to be. They leave their dogs out at night. They put the dog food out at night.
They feed the deer.
They feed the deer, and then they're irritated when the coyote comes into their backyard and eats Rufus for an evening snack.
I think we thought that the food chain was going to stay somewhere comfortable and convenient for us, and of course it doesn't care for our rules.
Mm-hmm. And really what your book is about, the emphasis is on the times when that cougar, instead of just hanging out and watching us and being amused by the silly things we do, is hungry and decides he really has to eat, and this looks like the best chance going for food.
It's actually, it's sort of true, but the fact is that cougar attacks on people, although when cougars attack people, they are always predatory attacks. They want to eat you. They're not defending their territory or their kittens. But predatory attacks are really rare. What's common are frightening encounters. And that's actually a little bit more about what the book does. It tries to tell people, look, you wanted the wildlife back, and celebrate because you were successful. The deer are back, the geese are back, coyotes, cougars, wolves are returning to my part of the country. Black bears, you guys have a returning population of black bears, and that's true elsewhere in the country too. Okay, now they're back. Now you have to accept the more problematic parts of living with them. What are you going to do about the fact that cougars are living in your city if you live in Sacramento or Seattle or San Diego or...
Are they in Albuquerque yet? I know there's a really big problem with coyotes in Albuquerque.
I don't know, but my guess would be if coyotes are finding habitat in town, cougars are too.
And as you said, we're thinking that it's like when we grew, when some of us grew up as children, that it's perfectly safe, that you can get out and wander around at night. You don't have to worry about letting your animals out or feeding. There was a mention in there of creating wildlife habitats in our backyards, which a lot of us do, which do entice. And I know that raccoons and possums live in my neighborhood. And so obviously the things that feed on possums and raccoons are going to start hanging out there too.
And a lot of what we wanted to do with our book was ask people to look at their lives and consider how, if they really want wildlife around, how they might need to change some things. There was a woman in, this isn't in the book, I couldn't fit it in there. But there was a woman in the San Diego area, kept calling her local wildlife agency saying, hey, there's a mountain lion and he's coming to my backyard and he eats the dog food at night. They didn't believe her, and finally a supervisor got tired of these repetitive phone calls and made the game warden come out. So he came out around sundown and he knocked on the front door and the woman let him in and she said, I'm glad you're here. He's here right now. Well, most cougar sightings are something else. They're golden retrievers, they're deer, they're bobcats, they're house cats. But in this particular case, when he looks out back the picture window, there is a 100-pound mountain lion eating her dog food. And that's funny, but the really funny part is, why didn't she, over the course of the month that she was making these phone calls, bring the dog food bowl in?
Yeah. I mean, at the very least that you're going to get when you leave your pet food out is ants and bugs and all that kind of thing. And the worst you're going to get is a cougar knocking on your door saying, that was a nice snack. Now what else is there for me to play with? That's I think people don't think of that, and they don't realize just how frightening and how powerful and how dangerous this animal is. As you said, it looks sort of like a house cat until you actually till it's breathing in your face.
It looks like a house cat 10 times as big as any house cat. He can jump 20 feet in the air. 20 feet horizontally, at least 15 feet straight in the air. They climb trees, they can kill deer, elk, moose. They're an amazingly powerful animal.
But you do have some suggestions for what people can do individually, and just to be aware when we're in national parks or in our own homes, if we're on the fringes of a city. This is kind of a wake-up call. We're living in a different world than the one we grew up in.
And we're living in a world we created. We asked them to come back. And I'm not sure it's time to be particularly concerned in Oklahoma yet. Cougars are returning, but there are so few of them here now. However, if I was concerned, I would, first of all, awareness is the first defense. Know that it's possible. They do exist, and they will come into your town. Eventually, they will come into Oklahoma City if they continue to recover. And I don't see any reason why they wouldn't continue to recover. The second thing would be, because all cougar attacks, and we're lucky in this way, cougars aren't like bears, they don't get mad. All cougar attacks are predatory, so if we make ourselves difficult to attack, we make ourselves unattractive to cougars.
Because what you're saying, in essence, they're looking for the easy thing to attack.
Yeah, so don't be alone. For instance, don't be oblivious. Don't let your children play alone in the woods if that's your concern.
Yeah. And don't let your dogs run loose.
If you like them.
If you like them, right. I'll have to remember that the next time I'm irritated with my dog. Thank you very much, Jo, for being with us.
Thank you.
We've had with us today Jo Deurbrock talking about her book, Cat Attacks, which you can find at your favorite library and your local bookstore. Coming up next, we have Susie Beasley. She'll be talking with Frank Ray about a book I think you'll all enjoy.
Frank, tell us a little bit about Steve Talley's Almost America. This what if major events happen just a little bit differently.
Okay, he lists 28 events in American history. He documents them real thoroughly at the beginning, what actually transpired, but then he puts a what if this decision wasn't made or this action wasn't performed or happened. What would have been the outcome then? And these could very well have happened.
Give us some examples.
Well, Washington, he did not cross the Delaware. He decided to wait until spring to attack Colonel Rawls. In doing that, he defends Philadelphia and still. The Continental Congress flees to Savannah, Georgia. Washington has to pull back to the hills of South Carolina. In the spring thaws that follows, Rawls does attack Washington, but his force is now decimated because of their apathy and poor conditions.
Right, things could have a little bit different.
Yeah. Lee accepts Winfield Scott's command of the Union Army. Lee and his tenacity and his ability goes to defeat the rebel capital, which is still in Montgomery, Alabama at this time. And within a year and a half, the Civil War is over at a much less cost and with less hard feelings. The other coin on that is that Meade pursues Lee at Gettysburg and forces Lee's surrender at Gettysburg, and the Civil War ends a few weeks after that. Again, less harsh feelings, but it is truly a Union victory then instead of just halfway. There's also there's something there that even I didn't realize how shaky the things were, such as the election of 1824, or when I remember this one in history about President Hayes and Tilden, Tilden, the big controversy there that if
it went the other way.
Yeah, if they hadn't given that one vote to Hayes or the electorate to Hayes, and Tilden could have got the nomination for the presidency.
Right. So you have campaigns, you have major military fronts, and even sports was affected and all
there's
that.
some sporting events. There's just some
And
general,
even commerce.
Yeah.
So Frank, we really appreciate you coming and sharing with us this Almost America from the Colonists to Clinton, a what-if history of the United States by Steve Talley.
Right.
And this is available at your local library and perhaps your local bookstore. Thank you, Frank, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank and Susie. I have a book that is supposed to be for young adults, that's grades 6 through 10, but I'll tell you, I enjoyed it very much myself. And frankly, I think that National Geographic Dinosaurs, written by Paul Barrett and illustrated by Raul Martin, would make an absolutely wonderful gift for any young person who's interested in dinosaurs. And if you could cap it off with a visit to the Sam Noble Museum of Natural History down in Norman, that would be a devoted friend for life on the receiving end of that. But this book is really a super book about dinosaurs. It's got wonderfully large two-page habitat illustrations, over 300 full-color photos and illustrations, 50 detailed dinosaur profiles, which in effect tells you everything that we know about a number of these dinosaurs. It is written by an expert in the field. Paul Barrett is a professor in Great Britain and considered one of the best people on dinosaurs in the world. This up-to-date overview begins with a step-by-step look through the stages of their existence, describes how archaeologists, paleontologists actually, dig, dress, and prepare their finds for an exhibit, and then looks at how dinosaurs lived and moved. Now that's just the introduction. Then it goes on to tell you about 50 selected dinosaurs. It has wonderful charts showing you how big they are, how they moved, that sort of thing. It's a wonderful book for anybody really who doesn't know much about dinosaurs and would like to learn a little bit about it, or for a young person who is just getting into it and is fascinated by this really wonderful subject. Raul Martin is a very highly respected paleontological artist and has worked on the Atapuerca finds in Spain before he was asked to do the illustrations for this book. It's really a beautiful book, highly enjoyable, and I would recommend it for anyone on your list who likes dinosaurs. This next book is for the handyman or handy woman amongst us who wants to beautify their floors. It's called Floor Style, Beautiful Floors and Floor Costs by Susan Goins Driggers. Now, you need a little bit of experience if you're going to utilize the things in this book, because it's going to take you into painting or stenciling on wood and concrete floors, as well as doing the painted floor cloths, which have been so popular for a number of years. Good basic instructions are included for each of the suggested projects, from painting a wood floor to look like granite or expensive inlay to stenciling a sisal rug or embellishing stair risers. But you do need to already have some basic skills. If you've never done any stenciling or painting, then I think you want to try a little bit of that before you get into Floor Style by Susan Goins-Driggers. Now, the last book that I have, again, is a book for young adults. It's called Four to the Pole, The American Woman's Expedition to Antarctica, 1992-93, by Nancy Lowen and Anne Bancroft. This book tells the story of the first all-woman team to transverse Antarctica, and it is drawn with day-by-day entries from the women's diaries, taped interviews, research transcripts, and expedition newsletters. It really is, it's a fairly dry book, but it gives you a really great look at the challenges that these women faced when they were trying to walk across Antarctica, and creates a great deal of respect for the women who actually planned and then completed this expedition into the wild. Coming up next, we have Kids Corner. Kelly Rhea talked with Shelley Ziegler-Hill about a book I think all of our young people will enjoy.
Miss Shelley from Belle Isle has a very good young adult book for us. And what's the name of it?
It's called Ringer by Jerry Spinelli.
Ringer.
Ringer, and it's a very interesting title. You know, you're not really sure what that means when you get into it. I think the subtitle kind of gives it away. It says that not all birthdays are welcome. A ringer is someone who brings the necks of wounded pigeons, which is really sad.
Why would someone do
Well,
that?
at this town, they have an annual pigeon shoot day.
I see.
And when boys turn 10, they can become ringers. And what they do, you know, they wring the necks of the wounded pigeons. And there is this boy in it, and the main character, and he does not want to be a ringer. And
I don't blame him.
I know, but it's very much against what everyone else in the town believes, their kind of own moral beliefs. And it even goes against his father's beliefs, because his father was the sharpshooter of pigeons from the year before.
So they've had this tradition in their town
yes.
a long time.
Yeah, it's been going on for many years. So it's assumed that he will become a ringer, and he does not want to be one at all. And he actually befriends a pigeon named Nipper, and he has to hide that from his friends and
his family.
And his family, and it's really it's a hard read. I had to skip some parts of it myself because I am an animal activist, so it did upset me. But it's so good in that it teaches children how to stand up when your beliefs aren't concurrent with others or others in your community. And I just think it's a good way to show children how they can be individuals and stand up for their beliefs.
What's this main character's name?
His name's Palmer, and he's 9, he's going on 10, and he is just dreading his birthday. I mean, he's just counting down the days because he knows that he's going to have to be a ringer. But without giving the ending away, it does have a good, happy ending.
So things wrap up, and
They do.
And Palmer comes out on top.
Palmer does come out on top, and he stays true to himself.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Oh, it sounds like a really.
It is good, but it is difficult, though. I will say that it is upsetting if you are an animal activist.
Well, we all love animals, and we wouldn't want anything to happen to the animals that we love and the animals that we find, and so I think it'd be really good for kids to read this book.
It is good. But
what ages would be appropriate?
9 to 12, I'd say, but I would say towards the higher end of that, just because
of the issue.
Yeah, because the issue it's really deep.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a very good book, and I'm hoping
is.
to read it.
I
and
think
hope
adults
that,
would like it.
Oh, adults would like it.
Oh, I think it's
so
really
you could
good.
read it. Adults could read it with their children.
Oh, I think most definitely. I think it'd be a good book to discuss with your children.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, you can find that book at your local library or at your favorite bookstore.
Thanks, Kelly and Shelley. Now it's time for the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start out with hardback fiction, and number 10 on that list is Journey Through Heart Songs, written and illustrated by Maddie Stepanek, The Mitford Snowman by Jan Karan, The Best Loved Poems of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, selected by Caroline Kennedy, Black House by Stephen King and Peter Straub, A Bend in the Road by Nicholas Sparks, Blood and Gold by Anne Rice, The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen, Midnight Bayou by Nora Roberts, Isle of Dogs by Patricia Cornwell is number 2, and number 1 is The Kiss by Danielle Steele. On the nonfiction list, number 10 is Fire by Sebastian Junger, War in a Time of Peace by David Halberstam, Good to Great by Jim Collins, Islam by Karen Armstrong, Crossing Over by John Edward, John Adams by David McCullough, Germs by Miller, Engelberg, and Board, Jack, Straight from the Gut by Jack Welch with John Byrne. Number 2 is The Final Days by Barbara Olson, and number 1 is The No Spin Zone by Bill O'Reilly. On the children's list, number 10 is Quidditch Through the Ages by Kenilworthy Wisp, Holes by Louis Sekar, The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman, The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot, Surprise, Surprise by Megan Stein, Tagaroon by Brian Jacques, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. Number 2 is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by Rowling, and number 1 is Rowling's Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Coming up next, we have Doug Benton from the Metropolitan Library System and the Oklahoma Gazette. He'll be talking with Clyde Martin, that renowned radio opera host and actor.
Thanks. Hello again, everybody. I'm here with Clyde Martin again today. Clyde has a book on, surprisingly enough, music.
Well, it's really talking about music festivals, and the summer is now winding down, and people have been on their vacations, but there's always next year when people want to go on vacations, and if they are interested in a particular kind of music, this book covers everything.
Yes, I see the subtitle is there, From Bach to Blues.
That's right.
So it's not just classical music.
No. Of course, it includes all the classical festivals like the Aspen Music Festival and the Central City Opera and things like that.
Ours?
Oh, yes. The OK Mozart Festival is included in there. Even the Red Earth is included.
Oh, so I wouldn't think of that as a music festival.
I wouldn't
so
either,
that's
but he does.
book.
And he says, now, I must warn you, these things change. Some of them just don't make it past several years and they go out of business. So he says, I advise you to check with them, and he has listed phone numbers, he has listed addresses to contact any festival you might be in the area of.
Yeah.
And he says that, for instance, if you go to Santa Fe and you go for the opera, but you can't get tickets, well, there are other things going on, other kinds of music performances going on which you can get into. So he said, just don't limit yourself to one thing in an area, because there very often are other things that you can take in.
Yeah.
So it's really a very comprehensive book. He starts with the East Coast and goes west. And we are included in the Plain States.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. And then, of course, New Mexico and Colorado are more in the west. But it's broken down by state, by region first, and then by state, and then alphabetically by the.
So he tells you a little bit about what kind of music to expect.
That's right.
Does he have anything about lodgings in the area? Does
No, not a great deal. No.
So you need to use this in conjunction with maybe another travel.
That's right. And he says, also, there are a lot of things that are free. He said,
that's nice to know.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he mentions, of course, the Aspen tent, where you can sit outside the tent on the grass and picnic and listen to the music just as well as if you're on the front row. It's a very, very fine book.
Is the OK Mozart the only Oklahoma festival that's mentioned in there?
As far as classical music, yes. But there are others. There are other things. There are bluegrass.
Well, I know there's something in Guthrie. I know
yes, and Guthrie is included. Country, of course. So it's not just classical by any means.
It's music festivals from Bach to Blues by Tom Kleins. Clyde, thank you for bringing it in.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Clyde and Doug. Coming up next, I talked recently with local attorney John Brewer about a book he thinks you might find very interesting. Okay, John, you've brought quite an interesting and fairly topical book today, haven't you?
There's a brand new book out by a lady named Alicia Mundy. It's titled Dispensing with the Truth. It's subtitled The Victims, the Drug Companies, and the Dramatic Story Behind the Battle over Fen-Phen.
Okay, now Fen-Phen, for the one or two people who haven't been reading the news for the last 15 years, was a great miracle weight loss drug, wasn't it?
Well, it was touted to be a miracle weight loss drug. It's actually a combination of two drugs. The use of those two drugs was never submitted or approved by the FDA. It was strictly a sales and cash cow for the drug companies, actually. In reality, the drug was, and the combination of drugs were totally ineffective. Controlled tests showed that the average person would lose 3% of their body weight while they were taking these medications. So, a 200-pound person would lose 6 pounds.
Oh dear.
So actually, but the profit potential was enormous. So because of that, the drug companies looked the other way, ignored safety concerns that they knew about, both from Europe and from the U.S., and went ahead and sold the drugs anyway. And of course, the number of people who took these drugs in just a short time that they were on the market was enormous. And the time frame in which these drugs could cause terminal injuries, both to the heart valves and to the pulmonary system, was very short. You could take the drugs for 2 weeks and perhaps be damaged terminally and be dead within the year. The story really, to a large degree, revolves around the first wrongful death case that was brought in this litigation. It was a young lady named Mary Lennon. She was a resident of the Boston area. She was represented by a Boston lawyer. I think she took the drugs for about 2 weeks. Within 9 months, she was dead from this pulmonary disease that had resulted from the drugs. It's a fascinating story. It's right up there with In Cold Blood, civil action. It shows you how the profit motive can totally disrupt rational thought in a big corporation. It also shows you the degree by which the pharmaceutical companies control the FDA in getting drugs approved.
Now, does it deal with the litigation? Does it get into what actually went on, the maneuvering in the court cases?
It talks a lot about the different cases, the case in Boston, the Lennon case, some Oregon cases, the Texas Mavericks, they called the Lone Rangers, who were running on their own track down there apart from the multi-district litigation. It gets into some very interesting stories both in the courtroom and what goes on between some of the lawyers outside of the courtroom. The Texas lawyers going out to the motel balcony at night and screaming obscenities to the lawyers for the drug companies across the street. Things of that nature. They were so involved in the case. It also talks about the fact that when the Lennon case settled after a week of trial, some of the jurors came up to the plaintiff's lawyers afterwards and said, "We were going to award $1 billion in punitive damages. We are disappointed that you settled the case."
Oh, good Lord. Well, thank you very much, John, and tell me again the title and the author of the book.
Dispensing with the Truth by Alicia Mundy.
Thanks, John. Remember, you can find out all sorts of things about your library system by logging on to the internet and going to www.metrolibrary.org. Not only can you find out where all of the libraries are located, you can find when they are open, what sort of programs they have, whether for children or adults. You can also access the catalog through the internet and look up all of our books, videos, audio tapes, and CDs, and actually put reserves on them. They will be delivered to the library of your choice, so all you have to do is go down and check them out. This is a wonderful resource. The homepage now lets you access a number of databases from your home. So be sure and check us out and join us again next time.